There's no instructions here. You have to find how do you use it, you see. So you do. You've then got all the same problems you have with anything else. What do I paint? What do I do?
I'm Lawrence Weschler, and in the October 22nd issue of the New York Review, I have a piece about David Hockney's iPhone drawings. I have been chronicling David Hockney for 25 years now. About a year ago, when I was with him, he grabbed my iPhone out of my hand. He said, "Let me look at that." And he played with it for a little while and apparently bought one the next day. And a few months later, I began getting this series of drawings he was doing on his iPhone. And this continues to this day. When he finishes one of these drawings, he sends them out into the world. There's about 15, 20 people, and he assumes that we send them on to other people if we feel like it. One of the things that's quite fascinating in this whole thing is that we have the original on our iPhone, which is to say there is no version that is higher resolution than the one we have. We all have the same resolution. The ones that you're looking at right now are originals as well. As time went by, it began to seem that there were three primary streams of imagery. One of them, self-portraits. One of the things that's extremely interesting about the iPhone, if you have it, as I do right now as I'm looking at it, when you turn off the camera, you just have a black screen, which actually kind of works like a mirror, like one of those Claude Lorraine mirrors. He is able, in the drawing he does, to make himself the size he would be if he were looking at it as if it were a mirror, although he's not using it as a mirror. Then he began doing a whole series of flowers. And one of the things that's fascinating as you look through these is Hockney has some that are extremely fast and blithe. He has some that are very densely worked. The glass transparency effects are very interesting. And by the way, interesting because when you're looking at them the way they're supposed to be seen on a screen at this size, ideally on an iPhone, light is coming from behind, and so you can play with light in different kinds of ways. There is, for example, one series where you can see him very consciously playing out different ways of doing the same group of pink flowers. He can go from that to something completely different and something that looks like it, almost like Matisse-like with it, or it was just a quick little drawing. And you can see that wildly various kind of things he does. What's so fascinating about this one is if you look at it, the color is just smeared around, and then it's the black line that gives you a sense of the form. And yet that is such a glass of water. Then sometimes with other ones, you'll have the morning light behind. And the third sequence, in some ways the most exciting to me, is a series he's been doing of the dawn. Dawn in that part of the world on the North Sea in East Yorkshire comes up over the sea. This is parenthetically the opposite, if you think about it, from his life in California, where the sun sets into the sea. Most people aren't even awake at dawn, and he talks about how crazy that is because the freshest light of the day and so forth. But he has always, he said, wanted to paint dawn and not been able to do it because you can't see the paints. As it starts, it's very dark. Or if you turn on the light, the reflection knocks out, so you can't do it. But with his iPhone light in bed, he's able to turn it on, and he's able to draw. One day, those of us who were getting these things, it was about midnight in New York that these began coming in, and they were coming in every 3 minutes because, in fact, he was drawing the dawn as it was happening. The one that I love is one that comes a little bit later on where somehow the ocean turns green for a moment, and then it gets brighter and brighter, and then the very last one, by this point, it's so bright, even looking at your iPhone at midnight in New York, you're going, oh, God, it's getting too bright. And sure enough, the next thing he said was a little thing where he'd written, with his thumb, by the way, and then you can't look anymore. So one day, he and I did dueling iPhone portraits. He pulled out his iPhone. He said, I'll do a drawing of you. And I said, okay, well, I'll take some photos of you doing a drawing of me. There he is, using his thumb. You can get a sense of him studying and getting it right. And here's his portrait of me. Later that night, he worked on it some more, and he eventually developed it into this.
I mean, most people think it's ridiculous to be drawing on a telephone. But it isn't. Once you realise this is a very lovely fluid medium.
I don't think this is an issue of drawing on a telephone. I think this is an issue of talking on an easel.
Yes.